strongest, right? What does this text say about Theodicy? I think this is important, and I think this stands really behind everything Gardner's done in his research. It is this simple. Bad things are going to happen. Pain and suffering occurs. Stop asking, why did it happen to me? Think of yourself as a victim and ask, why did it happen for me? Well, I guess I'm not very smart because I can't do math, and so I guess that means I'm going to end up having a no-brainer job. No, 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 no. No. Learn how to take the experiences that are painful and ask, why did this happen for me? Don't be a victim. Take control of your life. And one of the ways you do that is to appreciate all of the intelligences that you possess, to grow the ones that you're weakest in, to build with the ones that you're strongest in. Well, let's talk at 2A about messages. Yeah, one of the major messages here, everybody deserves respect. We will never again talk about somebody being dumb. That is the silliest thing. We can always find somebody who knows more than you. Always. I can always find somebody more. And to that degree, mutual self-respect. Beginning, of course, with self-respect and then respect for all others. Another one that builds off of this idea, another message is, you got to believe in yourself. You got to believe in your abilities. You got to believe in your intelligences. You have to embrace the ones that you're strong in, and you got to grow the ones that you're maybe a little weaker in, right? Finally, of course, you got to learn how to use your strengths and improve your weaknesses and help others do the same, right? That's so important, so hypercritical. If your little brother or sister can't do something that you can do, don't make fun of them. Recognize that they maybe are intelligent in ways you're not. And obviously, if they make fun of you for that, you'd feel small. You never want to feel small, do you? Of course, in 2B, the simple language is obvious here. The enumeration, the parallelism is powerful. And some students have said, you know, the way he uses these examples, it works out so well. You know, it's brilliant stuff. At 3A, well, what are we going to compare this to? No question, Plato's Republic. Remember what he says in Republic 2 and beyond. You are your education. That process of somebody selecting and deselecting information for you. Your intelligences as well are drawn and somehow molded by issues of your DNA, your genetics, and all of that. And go back to our comments on Ken Wilber's 4 quadrants model. There's learning and intelligences that take place in all 4 of those quadrants. The biological, upper right. The cognitive, psychological, upper left. The cultural, there's a cultural intelligence in that lower left. And of course, an economics intelligence in that lower right. All of them working together. I just want to point out a couple of things, though, really quickly that just make you think about it, 3A. Go back and look at our comments on Emerson's essay, American Scholar. I think for my money, and I've given a lecture on this on learnstrong.net, for my money, one of the most profound essays. Of course, the young Thoreau, listening to what Emerson had to say, went off and put it to practice. And that's what makes learning fun, when we can put it into practice. It's a tool. It's a tool. And of course, there's joy after the pain and the fear of learning, right? Plato said all learning involves fear and pain, but on the other end, Mikey learned how to ride that bike, didn't he? Think about the other texts in Unit 4 on mind. We mentioned Plato and the cave allegory. Maimonides and his essay comes to mind, obviously. There's a couple of classics that I can turn you on to. They're so old now that we'll call them classics. They're films. The great Robin Williams' Dead Poets Society, one of the classics about learning and intelligence. And then there's that great film, Breakfast Club. Some of you smiling. We reference this film quite often, right? Because there's something really important about all the different abilities and intelligences that are celebrated there, and the young people who have to kind of come to learn about them. Finally, at 3B. Go online, let me recommend it. Go online and find simple inventories that allow you to find out where you're strong and then maybe where you're not so strong in these intelligences. In 303 over the years, this has been one of the kind of fun games for us to play. We'll do one of these inventories. Where am I strong? Where am I weak? And then obviously ask the question, how can I build off of those strengths? How can I use my stronger intelligence to help me grow my weaker intelligence? If I'm strong in music, if I'm strong in body kinesthetic, can I find a way to do that? If I'm strong in interpersonal but weak in intrapersonal, or the reverse, can I find ways to grow? That's the key. So we'll ask it now at 3B. What are your strengths in terms of your intelligences? And how can you use them? So for example, the student I had who very strong in music but had to memorize poetry, like for example, Psalm of Life. So she came to me and said, can I sing it instead of quote it? And I said, absolutely, why not? She was able to memorize the entire poem in half an hour. Why? Because she's a musician, she understands rhythm, and she can use that well to be able to, why wouldn't she want to do it? Why wouldn't you want to build from your strengths? But you got to know that your strengths before you can build from them, right? Of course, you knew this was coming. What are your weaknesses? Go back to my comments in the intro to 303 lectures at Learn Strong on the homepage. How about this one? It's that thing in the neck. That thing that you don't understand that probably will kill you if you don't have a way to get it out. That thing in the neck, your academic weaknesses. The student who comes into 303 and says, I hate to read, and I say, here's a book. Dude, you didn't hear me, I hate to read. Well, if you really hate to read, then here's 2 books. Why? Because you've got to grow your weaknesses. You no longer are going to say, well, that's it, I'm just no good in math. My mom told me she wasn't any good at math either. That is not an acceptable attitude to have about learning, ever. What are your weaknesses, and how are you going to grow them? Of course, we point out in that lecture at LearnStrong.net, to take that thing out of your neck, you're going to have some serious courage to overcome some fear. Why? To admit that you're not good at something, to admit that it should be something you want to do better, you got to go to work. Well, how are you going to grow? How are you going to evolve? How are you going to improve? I hope all the lectures of Unit 4 have challenged you in that regards, and now we end Unit 4. Congratulations, you're halfway through the Jacobus text. I appreciate your kind attention. I hope you've grown from all the readings. Let's keep going, shall we?